Hello and welcome to a cold and wintry Brands Hatch. It's the final round of the season and this is the Lotus on Track Elise Trophy. How's your season been?
Well, the races which I've finished have been absolutely fantastic fun, but made lots of new friends, which is really great, and to be honest, just can't wait for next year. It's a real shame we've got a break.
Oh, it's been a cracking year again. The Lotus on Track guys and Paul Golding put in a terrific show. To get this many cars on the grid so consistently, it's just phenomenal, and a really nice bunch of guys as well. So yeah, it's been a terrific year.
Been coming last and suddenly get into mid-table. It's been absolute brilliant. Yeah, loving it, and I'm going to pay up for the whole season next year.
The cars are now taking their places on the grid for the final time this season, with Matthew Bartlett taking pole from Hans Boemhard. The weather's looking slightly touch and go, so fingers crossed for a dry race.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very challenging race for these guys. In fact, we're going to see 31 cars taking the start, and it's going to be Bartlett who takes a front row start alongside Hans Baumhart, although the top 10 qualifying times have been reversed, which sees effectively the fastest man starting from 10th place. Going further down the grid, that great qualifying from Vital Chuan. He's very, very pleased about that, as we heard. Tom Chataway, Stuart Malt in the middle of the pack there. They're going to be scrapping hard, no doubt. Going further down, we see Stuart Mason, Greg Noble in the championship. Good to see him on board, and Matt Franks as well. And our lady racer, Tess Howe, looking for a strong end to the finish. Stuart Kirkbride lower down than we might expect, as usual, for him. Lights are on, Brands Hatch always challenging into Paddock Hill Bend, especially with conditions like this. A good start from the front two, and also from the 23 car of Gary Broad, trying to get through the middle though. Don't think there's going to be enough of a gap. Watch for the cars as they come through this challenging corner. The road drops away and it goes into a big compression at the bottom of the hill. And if ever there was conditions that are going to really put these drivers to the test, it's going to be a day like today. Baumhart, though, has got himself ahead, and he's edging through Druids Corner as they come down the hill towards Graham Hill Bend. 2, 3, sometimes 4 abreast, as we've come to see all season with Lotus on Track. What a great championship, what a great series we've had, and it's been absolutely action-packed for all 12 rounds as they charge down towards Surtees now, sweeping to the left-hander. Obviously lap times much slower than these cars can ultimately achieve. The conditions being as treacherous as they are today, this time of year obviously always going to be difficult to get the circuit to dry out, even when it stops raining. I think the wipers are on more to deal with the spray coming off the cars than they are to deal with any rain that's coming out of the sky at this stage. Certainly the sun seems to be shining hard here at Brands Hatch. But it is Baumhart, though, under pressure from Bartlett. Bartlett trying to find a gap down the inside, but the man on the mission does look to be Gary Broad. Certainly looked very, very committed as they came into Paddock Hill Bend. Behind them, the yellow car of Ken Savage, holding station, trying to work his way into that scrap for a potential podium position. So coming out of the very, very treacherous and very tricky Druids Corner, very easy to run wide there. Down the hill, Baumhart now looks like he's under a little bit of pressure, but under more pressure behind them. Looks like Matthew Bartlett has really got to work hard to keep Gary Broad behind. In fact, it looks like Broad maybe is getting himself alongside as they come down into Surtees. He's going to get on the brakes a little bit later, gets it done very, very neatly done. A fantastic overtake from Gary Broad. Bartlett really didn't have a lot of an answer for that. He's going in deeper now into clearways, taking more of the wet weather line there. Very, very greasy. Such a build-up of rubber on the racing line at Brands Hatch because this circuit's used so much throughout the season. Meanwhile, a problem there for the number 4 car. Spin there for Nigel Ayres. Looks like he may have got himself stuck on the grass, but Broad, he's not giving up. He's down the inside this time, and Bartlett carried so much speed through there. Still managed to get the car slowed down and turned in. Superb piece of overtaking from Gary Broad. He really does look like he's dealing with these conditions superbly. Already coming away from one race win this weekend. On the race earlier this weekend, drove superbly to get himself to the head of the field and get the job done there. And it certainly looks like that could be on at the moment. Meanwhile, the 49 of Steve Wenzel and Paul Harding having a big scrap there. And a spinner, Stuart Kirkbride. Looks like he's stopped, and the Brands Hatch rescue team are going to go out under the safety car to try and get that car of theirs recovered. Meanwhile, the rest of the drivers will fall in line. This is always a challenge for these guys to try to retain focus, not to get their concentration drop, and this is where the concentration comes in. The safety car's lights are off. It is Broad, of course, heading away from the 14 of Baumhart. Does look like he's got a neat and tidy start. Can't, of course, overtake until they cross the start line. That's where the green flag is waved. That's the rules, and that's what they've got to stick to. They all seem to behave themselves pretty well. Meanwhile, Bartlett's still hanging in there, not dropping away behind them a little bit. We just saw a flash of, I think that was Marcus Jewell's car, perhaps. He's worked his way through. Remember, as we said, that the top 10 qualifying times reversed effectively to the grid. Now, Paul Harding looking forward. That was Marcus Jewell, I think we saw a little bit further ahead. Meanwhile, the 26 car, Peter Story, coming through our shot, and Andy Dolan as well. Stuart Mason coming up the hill too. Broad, though, looking very, very calm and collected. Of course, doesn't have to worry about having that wiper on as much as the others because he's got no one in front of him to put the spray on the windscreen. And it certainly looks at the lap times, he's just got enough just to edge away. Meanwhile, spinner for the 61 car, spin rather for the 61 car of Andrew Napier, the very distinctive white car. And that looks to me like Wenzel is out. I don't know whether that's a mechanical problem or whether he's had an off of some sort. Certainly looks like where he's parked it's most likely to be some sort of a technical problem. And these cars have been remarkably robust over the season. Very few issues from that point of view. Really has been superb. The drivers have just been able to get out and get on with the racing, and that's really what's been important to them. Ian Berry back in the series. He's been in and out throughout the year, under a little bit of pressure from Tom Chataway, and really enjoyed his racing. Dolan, though, down the inside, really barging his way alongside Vital Chuan. And Vital, what a great performance from him. We heard him at the stop of the show saying how great it was to be running that far up after starting in the back earlier on. Meanwhile, 47 car coming through there. Have Paul Patterson under a little bit of pressure just ahead the 80 car. And the scraps continue throughout the pack. Bit of Story and Vital Chuan this time side by side as they came through Surtees. Looked like he got that job done. Once again, we watch Ian Berry sweeping into Paddock Hill Bend. He's worked here at Brands Hatch, so he knows the place very, very well. And certainly helping him in these sort of conditions. Meanwhile, Simon Deacon putting a bit of pressure on Chataway. Those two guys seem to have scrapped quite a lot over the season, and I think we're going to see them back in the series, no doubt, next year. Ian Berry in amongst the mix as well, and Michael Edwards. Well, we've seen just how quick Michael can be. In fact, he did the fastest time overall. Started 10th as a result of this change around in the grid order that we saw the organisers put together to make the racing even more exciting than it already is. And a load of good scraps we've had throughout the season. Edwards putting pressure on Berry. Looks like he's got a good run out of clearways. Maybe he's just got the silver car, to the inside as they come down towards Paddock Hill Bend. I think he has a very, very well thought through overtaking manoeuvre. The tricky part now is to hold the car tight to the inside to avoid the guy that you've just passed cutting back and trying to get back through on the inside. We just briefly saw the red car of the 45 of Peter Driver flashing through our shot just a little bit ahead of that scrap. And meanwhile, you see the 40 of Simon Phillips, very interesting livery there. There's cream with the British Racing green stripes down there. He's putting a little bit of pressure on Stuart Mortman that we've seen regularly running near the front. Stuart Mason just ahead of that little battle there going on. This is the great thing about Lotus On Track. You can always find a race somewhere. There's always some action going on. Now, Marcus Jewell, we've seen just how competitive this guy can be, and he seems to be dealing with these conditions superbly. He's got himself around the outside to try and get a job done, and he does get the job done as he comes into Paddock Hill Bend. Well, that was an incredibly brave piece of overtaking by Marcus Jewell. I don't really think Bartlett was expecting that. Certainly, it was very fair. Didn't put an undue amount of a squeeze, as it were, on Jewell, because it would have been very easy to do that. Certainly in other forms of motorsport, I think we might have seen a bit less sportsmanlike driving. Hart now is going to have to worry. Meanwhile, Harding down the inside, very late down the inside, bang into the side of Ken Savage. Well, poor Ken Savage, I don't think he saw that one coming at all, and really, from Harding's point of view, it was quite a little bit of a last of the late breakers move, and these slippery conditions just simply couldn't get the car stopped. And Savage just got the car turned in as he would normally have done. Meanwhile, Tess Howe, one of our lady racers, and the 72 of Matt Franks here, he's sort of skipping away from the car. He seems okay. Disappointing, obviously. Jewell, though, down the inside for Hans Baumhart. He is clearly on a mission, I think, with the same sort of driving style as we saw Gary Broad applying early on in the race to get himself into the lead. Now, the question is, of course, can Jewell do enough with what are a relatively few laps left to get himself in a position to challenge this man, Gary Broad, dealing with the back markers or not dealing with the back markers, gets on the curb, bang into the barrier. Oh, heartbreak for Gary Broad. It looked like he was going to come away with a tremendous double victory this weekend, but not to be. Meanwhile, in the background, Savage, nearly takes, I think that was Andy Dolan who did a brilliant job of missing a Marcus Scholl. Who'd have thought it? He comes through to take a tremendous victory, worked his way brilliantly to the front. He wins from Baumhart. BJ Chong takes a well-earned third. Deacon, Edwards driver, Ian Berry, Tom Chatway, a great result for him. Andy Dolan and Peter Story round out our top 10 for the final weekend here at Brands Hatch. Dan McCullough from Motorsport News hands out the trophies.
Thank you very much.
And three very, very happy drivers, all congratulating each other.
BJ, it looked really, really tough out there. So real slippery conditions. How was it?
Yeah, it was. It was very, very greasy. Everyone was going as hard as they could, and I think I was fortunate to get third actually, but pleased nevertheless.
Hans, a huge smile as always. You must have enjoyed that one, hey?
Absolutely. It was the twitchiest race I've had yet, but I just let it all hang out. I thought, last race of the season, let's go for it. And we went for it and had a lot of fun doing it.
Marcus, you've had an amazing weekend, bit of a moment yesterday and nearly didn't clinch that win today.
No, I was very lucky. I actually hit the wall at around 80 mile an hour and the medic said if I didn't have a HANS device on, then I'd have had to go straight to hospital to be observed for the night, so I was pretty lucky. So anyone racing should wear those for sure, and managed to fix the car, get out there and grab back up first. So unlucky for Gary, but I'll take this all day long.
Absolutely. Last race of the season and your first win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had several podiums and dropped out when I've been in podium contention, but to get the first win's really great, especially on the last race. Fantastic.
Well, certainly an eventful Class A race and last one of the season at that, but don't go away. There's more action after the break.